Do you know when it's time to transplant your seedlings outside that you started inside from seeds? Well, I want to give you a couple of tips that I use, but the most important thing I want you to remember is when you start seeds inside, before you put them outside in your garden, it's so important that you harden your transplants off. And hardening off basically is exposing these plants to more and more of the environmental conditions over a period of about 7 to 10, maybe even 14 days. So let me go a little bit deeper, and I want you to think about it like this. If your plants have been inside once they've germinated, they've probably gotten the same amount of grow lights, they've probably gotten the same amount of temperature inside, and they haven't been exposed to things like wind and rain. So when I harden off, I'm basically every day for about 7 to 10, even 14 days, is I'm exposing them more and more to the environmental conditions outside. I'm exposing them to more and more light each day. They may get a little fluctuation of temperatures each day, but I want them to get accustomed to what it's going to be used to outside versus just throwing them outside and possibly going into shock. So this is a very important step that you really want to do, especially if your transplants have been inside. Now, once we've gotten all of that under control, the first things before I even start to harden them off, I want to make sure that they have about 2 to 3 sets of true leaves. When seeds germinate inside or outside, they're always going to have what's called cotyledon, these little leaves right here. But as the plant grows, they're going to start to develop their true leaves. I also want to make sure that their stems are nice, sturdy, and strong. And I also want to check the root system. I want to make sure that the roots are not wrapping around each other, make sure that they look good and healthy. And then I'm going to start my hardening off process. Now, these we've been hardening off for about 10 days. I'm actually going to leave these out here overnight because I plan to put them in their home in about either tomorrow or the next day after that. So these are just some indicators that I use in my garden as hardening off and when to start transplanting them outside. But you always want to make sure, even when you transplant them outside, these are summer loving vegetables. So you want to make sure that all danger of frost has passed. You always want to know your first fall frost, your last spring frost, and your growing zone. So I hope these tips were helpful. If they were, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can get more gardening tips like this.